at Bike Magazine. We're in the Kingdom Trails in East Burke, Vermont. Today we're checking out Salsa's new bike, the Pony Rustler Carbon X01. Salsa calls this a backcountry trail riding bike. What makes it that? It's a plus-size bike. If that doesn't make any sense to you whatsoever, just think of it this way. Really fat tire. This thing runs on 27.5-inch wheels with a 3-inch tire. It's the top-of-the-line model. They have 3 Pony Rustlers for 2016. This one sells for $5,500. With that, you get the full carbon frame. You get a SRAM X01 1x drivetrain, RockShox Pike. You get the idea. It goes all the way down. If that's too much money, you can get one for $4,500, same frame, carbon, or you can go one step down below that for $3,500. And it's an all-aluminum bike. What'd you guys think of it?
I had a great time on it. I mean, just like riding it in sustain, just like straight line routes, didn't matter if they were parallel, perpendicular, off camber.
Wet.
The thing just trucked and plowed through everything and had traction pretty much no matter what.
And that's the selling point of this, right? With plus size tires, it's supposed to give you more stability, more traction. But does that mean, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of backlash on this new thing, right? Some people are saying, well, that means you're just dumbing down the ride. Did you feel like it was dumbed down or boring at all?
It was definitely dumbed down.
Yeah. It's, you don't have to think about your line.
Yeah.
It's almost negligible, like line choice. It's almost eliminated that concept.
So is that good or bad?
Well, it depends on the person. It depends on your mood, even, I think. How hungover you are. There's lots of factors.
So there's
a day where you just might want your line to be dumbed down and just plow through it.
I was going faster because of it, because I was able to just look at the direction of the trail. I didn't have to pay attention to the micro terrain at all. It was just, where's the next turn and how do I line up for it?
It's an adventure bike, and that's kind of the way they're marketing it, probably wisely. But then it's kind of odd to randomly ride it on some steepish trails in a bike park here at East Burke, and feel that the whole DH bike kind of aspect of it, because it doesn't feel. I mean, it's not entirely identical, but there are some broad similarities. It feels like just that monster trucking capability and forgiveness of almost all of your mistakes. And
it's like a Catholic priest.
It is, especially with the Pope's latest tour.
Like a Catholic priest with wheels. That's actually you didn't know this is actually part of the new marketing program. It's going to go huge in South America. But let's stop and look at the geometry. This thing is actually fairly sporty, right? It's got 17.2-inch chainstays, a pretty low bottom bracket. I mean, we measured it out. Salsa doesn't list it on their spec sheet, but we very carefully measured it out, and it's about 13 inches. And you think you have a big volume tire and that low bottom bracket, you would think that the tire's compressing a fair bit, that you'd be knocking pedals, but it didn't sound like that's what was happening with you guys.
I knocked a few for sure, but it wasn't a major issue for me, and part of that is because even if you do knock a pedal and it puts your balance off a little bit, you've got so much traction still to work with that I didn't feel like it was a limiting factor at all on climbs or descents. When you're running low PSIs, which I was running like 12 in the front and 14 in the rear, to get that pop off of the rear tire, you first are going to compress the tire. And I definitely felt that, like the tire squishes, and then you start to get into the suspension. You get the rebound that you can pop off of, you get that support. And so that, I think, makes the bike feel a little bit more sluggish when you're just trying to get it in the air and pump off of little trail undulations.
Well, that gets back to adapting the way that we ride, right? Again, when everything came out, just brakes, full suspension, it changed how we had to ride, and then we start liking it more. But the other thing that's going on is that every time you get a new genre bike, it's all kind of all over the map, right? And right now, everyone's saying plus size tires like they're all the same, but the tires are radically different. This is a first year kind of product for everybody. This bike has legitimate 3-inch tires, and they're heavier than what most people are speccing on their bikes. These things are coming in about 1,200 grams. Now, a lot of people are saying, are trying to bring their tires in about 900 grams. So this thing has got, let's put it this way, nearly a pound more rotational weight than a lot of plus size bikes. And Salsa, I asked them why they did that. And they said, well, because they tried lighter tires and they were blowing them off rims, they were flattening them out, and they were using lighter wheels, single wall rims, and they were denting them. And they wanted something, getting back to Salsa's backcountry, adventure bike thing, they wanted something that was bomber.
because you can't get, if you're out in the middle of the wilderness, you can't be making mistakes like that.
Yeah.
On the subject of the size of the tires and the weight, on actual kind of extended climbs and even fire road climbs, getting up into the bike park and stuff like that, I did feel like it was a lot to push.
Well, we've talked about the tires, but obviously, I mean, this is it's a high-end frame. It's an all-carbon frame with the exception of the chainstay. It's also a Dave Wiggle design. It's a split pivot bike. So, I mean, getting away from the tires, what did you think of the actual chassis on this bike?
For me, it was the perfect first plus bike to ride because it was the rest of it was so dialed. I mean, the stiffness of the frame, the predictability of the rear suspension, even though it takes a little bit of getting used to and adapting to the tire, it's not this big foreign thing, at its bones. I mean, it's
still a mountain bike. I mean, it's a full suspension mountain bike with a good platform and it's pretty. You can still feel that on the trail.
Yeah, and really, this is their top end one, but I was pretty impressed with the price given the spec on this thing.
Yeah, $5,500, right? The SRAM X01, 1x drivetrain, RockShox Pike, SRAM Guide RS brakes. If that's too much, you can get the same exact frame built up with the Fox 34, which is a great fork, and I think it's a GX 1x, $4,500. And they come in at about the same weight. The bike is 30 pounds, despite the big tires. It's still reasonable. And it also has a RockShox Reverb Stealth. It's got good kit on this thing.
I'm not a super experienced fat bike rider. I've spent a bit of time.
You can admit it, dude. You can get out of the box. No one's judging.
No judgment.
It's okay.
I've had maybe a handful of rides on fat bikes in snow, but I mean I've ridden my normal like 2-3 tire equipped bike in snow, and it's usually fine. So I have a tough time not imagining these bikes as being the harbinger of fat bike obsolescence. I think they're going to replace fat bikes.
You think so?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a quiver killer for people who own fat bikes to ride in the winter and a normal bike to ride in the summer.
You just said quiver killer.
Yeah, it's going to be a quiver killer.
I don't know if that's a permissible word, but you said it, so there we go.
You have to read the employee manual. You're not allowed to do that.
You're not past your probation yet.
So that's that. If you want to check out more about this bike, you can go to our Bible Bike Test issue. If you want to see more bike test videos, go to bikemag.com.